All right, it is 6:35, so I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Champaign County Board Community Violence Prevention Task Force. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Carter.
Here.
Esri.
Here.
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 Present.
Sexton.
Here.
Patterson.
All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from April 24th, 2023. Oh, could I have an approval for the agenda and addenda?
So moved, Michaels.
I'll second Lakshan.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next is the approval of the minutes of April 24th, 2023. Carter, Esri. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, public participation. All right, seeing none, next communications. All right, so we're on to new business, discussion of current funding requests. Does anybody have any comments? Stephanie?
I have a suggestion. This is just my suggestion. I asked them to put this spreadsheet on that computer. I could maybe sit over there. And what I was thinking is maybe we could just go by these one by one and just be, I have a feeling that quite a few of them will probably be in pretty much agreement with. And then I could just type in what and then if it's one we don't agree with, I could like turn it yellow or something. And then the green, and I could keep like a tally, and then we could revisit the ones that we don't agree on. And maybe that could I feel like that's what we did with the whole ARPA money. Remember it was by Zoom? I just remember I had a spreadsheet up and I was typing in it for days. It felt like, does that seem like a good plan? Because otherwise I feel like it's gonna be I'm gonna need a whiteboard or something.
I think we've done that before for other projects, to be honest.
Okay.
It works really well.
Thank you for making it larger, too.
Yeah. Let's see, you could. Stephanie, could you clarify how much is remaining?
It is, maybe it's in
Is
the
that
minutes.
still the 2,407,963?
What is it?
2,407,963. As of the last meeting, that was the
Okay,
number
that
we
has
were
not
working
changed.
from. No.
Okay. I did meet with Kathy Larson today to talk about the ARPA projects and to get an update. So yeah, nothing has changed.
Diane?
Real quick, there's a typo on here. The VA stop violence is not 1,499,000, it's 499,430, so you can
I
plop a
thought they had
million
added
off
the
of that.
one at the last session.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
there was a few that were different. For one, I think the first followers one, it's 1.5, and I think it was minus 500.
Yeah.
So it'd be, 1.09. And then also, I think the YWCA, 50 was for 1 year, and they wanted to ask for 3 years.
Yeah, they
All right, anybody have any other comments or discussion, or we could move on to the next item, which is the task force recommendations to the full board. I think can't really think of a perfect way to do this, but what if we sort of went around to see where everybody was at for each item, and then after we do that, we could somebody could propose an amount, we could vote on it.
I second that.
Okay. All right, Aaron, did you have anything in mind as far as the first one they have is the Chamber of Commerce? I read, I count.
I guess my preference would be to fully fund that. The idea, the children are the future. Get them while they're young. However you want to say it. It's critical that people can read and do some basic math. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be able to do it in your head, but you would hope some basic math, but still, even if it takes you a pencil and paper, at least to be able to do some basic math, I don't see that changing. I mean, granted, you have calculators on your phones, maybe on your watch, whatever, but still, to be able to just sit there and do some basic math on a piece of paper, if it takes you a piece of paper, let alone maybe be able to do some in your head, and then to read, come on, that's fundamental. So that would be my preference on that one, fully fund it.
Mr. Sexton? I agree. All right. I agree.
Yeah, I see that they're partnered with Don Moyer and with Dream, and those are two organizations that I know do a lot of good work locally. I hope that, I guess, fully funding would help them to expand. I know that that's not the intent of what we're giving them, but hopefully what we're giving them frees up other funds so that they can maybe expand to other Champaign County districts, because right now they are just Champaign and Urbana, correct? Okay. I'd love to see them in Rantoul. I think that was one of the things we had talked about in the last session. But yeah, I would also agree. I think we can afford to fully fund this, and I'm happy to.
Ditto everything that Jen said. They definitely work with Don Moyer Boys and Girls Club and Dream, two nonprofit organizations that I would fully support. So I love that collaboration. And definitely the kids do need to learn how to read. And sometimes kids do better when they have that one-on-one interaction. So that's the plus in that. That's it.
70?
I don't mean to throw a wrench in things. I fully support the program. My only concern with this particular one and a couple of the other ones is it's a 3-year program, and that means that we would be funding it through the 2023-24 school year, 24-25 school year, 25-26 school year. That's the only part of it that gives me pause, is because all of this money has to be spent by the end of '26. That third year of funding kind of makes me a little bit concerned. I just wanted to express that. And that's the same for the that's across the board for the 3-year programs, is that gives me concern. I'm all for funding it through 25, the first 2 years. I know I read, I count in particular, though, wanted money because they want to track the students through the 3 years. So I don't know, but I just wanted to throw that out there, because the thing is if they don't spend it, then that's that. If they don't spend it, we're giving that money back to the feds. And that is my only concern with these programs that go into 2026.
What if we gave them the money and told them it had to be done by 25, and then they could use their own money for 26? Because I think they could find a use for every bit of this. And I
Okay.
think, too, I am very comfortable with the chamber knowing some of the ramifications of spending and not spending versus some of these other nonprofits that maybe have not had the experience with this kind of thing. Just a thought.
I will say that we have multiple other projects with the chamber, and they have at least been billing us on those projects, which is good. So that means that they're started, you know what I mean? Like, so that makes me feel like, yes, the chamber is spending some of our other ARPA money in the, what is that thing called? The Small Business Development Project that Samantha and Chris headed up. So that does, so I guess with that, I will agree with y'all. Okay.
All right, so do
Wait,
we,
are you just chairing, you're not
okay.
gonna recommend?
There's that empty column in the middle is you.
Are you
Okay.
just, that's okay if you're not going to.
oh, no, I'm fine, yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
But I wanted to clarify, we had discussed doing 2 school years. So is a suggestion to still go with the full amount?
You turn on the mic when you.
No
I'm
matter
a little
how
deaf.
you fund it, whatever the term is, I still think we need to fully fund it because I think there's a need for this kind of money in that kind of a program.
Sorry,
Yeah.
to Stephanie's point, I'm hopeful, or who was it who made that point? Might have been Diane. I'm hopeful that if we get to the end of year 2 and they see that there's still a pot of money to spend, they will be able to ramp up their services and get that done. It's already an established program. I think they'll find a way.
All right, the next is CU Tri, so Champaign-Urbana Trauma Resiliency Institute. That was a program that is kind of responds to the victims and families of the victims in the wake of shootings, and they do a number of trainings and other trauma-informed care for different agencies and entities. Let's start with Ed. Maybe start with Diane.
Well, this is one I have some questions on. And not that I don't think that it's something that's necessary. Please don't take that opinion when we talk about any of these because they are all necessary. But this one, I just don't know how they're going to sustain it. And if we give them money to start, that's all well and good, but they've got to have a sustainability. And she said that they're going to invest in the people and continue to work on getting funding. The city of Champaign is kind of funding part of it now, so I like the collaboration. I know it's only $250,000, but at the same time, this is one that I'm kind of an if on versus a oh yeah or oh no. I'm not a hard no or yes on this. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I was gonna say, you don't need to apologize. Like you said, the first thing, we're all here because we know all these groups need funds. Sorry, go ahead.
I am going to fully support this. All through COVID, I watched this organization help a lot of people in our community, and that was with no funds. And so when violence happens at someone's home, they're usually not going to stay at the home afterwards. Or when someone gets killed, they usually don't have any life insurance. And so what I've seen her do is help victims and their families through those hard times. So I would definitely support her. Like I said, to see a person do so much with little, I know that she would be able to get that $250,000 spent with no problem. And I'm hoping with the collaboration through the city of Champaign, this is something that should always be here in our county because gun violence isn't going anywhere. And in those circumstances, you do need that help, So hard yes for this.
I agree with Samantha on this one. We'll just agree with you. No, this pre-COVID, I don't even remember how many years pre-COVID, I took one of CU Tri's trauma and resiliency trainings that Karen Sims offered. It was through my church at the time. I learned a lot about like adverse childhood trauma and things that affect people in our community, and just changed my perspective on a whole lot of things. And like I said, this was pre-COVID. This was, I don't know how many years ago now, but I too have seen the work that Karen Sims has done. I see how little she has to do it with. I'm confident that with a $250,000 grant, she could do some fantastic work, actually have some people assist her, because, you know, I've been on the receiving end of those, you know, calls for assistance when there are families affected by gun violence, and she's trying to collect gift cards to make sure people have a place to stay, they have gas money, they have clothes for the kids, things like that. And to not have to scramble and struggle like that, and be able to use the funds to provide counseling the way that she is set up and built to do, I think she'd make good work of it. So I would fund this fully.
Does anybody else have any comments?
So I would fund it fully. I think for two reasons. One, or maybe for three reasons. One, I have confidence in Karen and her program. I've seen it work. Two, we have not done anything for victims. And so like we have a lot of like prevention, both, you know, from trying to, you know, get guns off the street to reading like programs, but we don't really have anything for victims. I obviously hope that it can be sustained, but even if it couldn't be, like, I mean, there's several things that we're funding right now, like we're funding the trying to get the guns, like that hot tip thing. We're funding the money to incentivize landlords, right, to pay for all of those programs. I don't know if they'll be sustained, but for the next few years, having that fund for victims of crime and victims' families, to me, makes a lot of sense. I have a lot of confidence that if anybody could, like, Karen knows what she's about. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and I'll also be blunt. We give 5% of our money from the public safety sales tax to community programs. I've, for a long time, had feelings about where we give that money and the efficacy of where we give that money. I think this program might be something we as a county might want to look at. I'm not saying to the tune of $250,000, but you know, right now we give money to Rosencrantz Reentry and the Youth Assessment Center. This, to me, helping families that go through our criminal justice system and that are victim, like, to me, might be something we want to revisit as a county ourselves, you know, not to this tune, but maybe to a smaller tune with some of that community violence money, because I do have some questions sometimes about the efficacy of the money we're currently spending. And I've expressed, that's not new, I've expressed that, I think, multiple times in meetings.
I have no real problem fully funding it. Yeah, there is maybe the issue of will it continue on, but that's pretty much, I mean, granted, there are some that are definitely more likely, I mean, Stephanie basically alluded to, there's some that are definitely more likely to for sure stay around, in part because they've been around already and yada yada, but things change. So, and like Stephanie, the idea for victims, I mean, and it sounds like based on the board members here who've seen and been involved with it, it does do good work. So I have no issue fully funding it.
Do you have a comment, Ed?
Very enlightened by everybody talking about it, because I knew very little about, there's several of these I know very little about even after reading. So it's good to hear that kind of support.
I'd support it.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense now.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have a problem supporting it.
Thumbs up. I think everybody else summed it up really well. Karen Sims is fantastic. She's got a great reputation, and you know, I've gone through, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 of her trainings through my employer, and it's very helpful stuff. It's very, very insightful. And I've also, you know, seen directly the work they've done, and they're very thorough, and it's just something that's absolutely needed. Next, we have the Cunningham Township Bridge to Home program. It was primarily like transitional sort of emergency housing for families. And there's some, they broke it down into, to kind of like price break out the different programs that they're asking to fund. Some of it was like, I think like maybe rent and utility assistance. Some of it went to partners to provide services. Who wants to start? Jenny?
Okay. I have an opinion on this one. I had talked with Stephanie about it some, and I think just from what the greatest needs are in the community on this one, I would fund it at 626,000 is my thought, and that would be hopefully for the purchase of and renovation of the emergency and transitional housing units, and 96,000 for property management and utilities. Because, you know, I was just even driving through town today, my teenager pointed out how many new buildings are going up around campus and how much student housing is available. But then, you know, to me, I'm like, oh yeah, but where's the low-income housing to go with it? That's not really expanding. And we know there's a real need for housing, especially in this transitional nature. So I think that provides a permanent structure for them. It doesn't cover, and I know that one of the things that when Danielle Chenoweth was asking, she said she really wanted that supportive services staff too, but I just, with that, I feel like we get into the whole, what are they going to be able to fund it beyond the grant period? Are they, you know, are we setting them up for something that's not going to last? I think 626 for me would be that this will last. So.
Oh, Aaron?
Thanks for that, Jenny. I appreciate it. I guess, I don't know, this is maybe kind of a question for Stephanie. Just, can we truly say, like, okay, this is what we specifically want you to use? I mean, we can.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, that's what I thought.
We've
I
been
was just double checking.
super specific.
I was just double checking.
Like when Lily came from housing, I mean, we funded some of her
Yeah.
stuff full,
Yeah,
some of her
that's what I
stuff
thought.
partial.
I'm just double checking in my mind.
Oh, no, we could we could put a lot of things into this MOU.
yeah,
We could
so-
say that they have to come and, you know, do, I don't know, slideshow presentation
Okay,
every
yeah,
Tuesday
yeah,
to us if
yeah,
we want.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
however we structure
I
the
thought
MOU.
we could. I just double-
And I will say, though, I do think on this particular one, because they're an intergovernmental agency, this will require an actual board vote. So we would actually have even more opportunity to weigh in on this particular one, because we would have to vote on the agreement, unlike, for example, the one we just did for the chamber, because they're not a governmental agency. But on governmental agencies, you can't just thumbs up stuff. We
Yeah.
actually have to vote on the IGA.
True. So my only question, just not that I don't agree with, you know, not everything, but
It's discussion. That's
I know,
what we're
I know,
here
but
for.
the only question is, can they do all of the building and fully house it without some extra staff? That's would be my only question, to where, okay, they had 6 units. Well, maybe some, I don't know what the breakdown would be, but you just using your total, would that mean only 5 units? And then they don't need quite so much maybe for property management, and that lets them get 1 staff person that they need or something like that. That would be to take care of those units if they get them, you know, when they get them built and maintained. That would be my only question. If you fund the building, do they have the staff to do the buildings and the maintenance without adding another staff? That would be my only question. On I don't know how all that directly ties in.
Oh, I will say that the second part that she suggested funding is property management, including first-time setup, maintenance, utilities, cleaning. So that would address that issue. If that's
Yeah, I mean, it does, but yet do they need do they have the people though? That's maintenance, management, and utilities. Some of this was, almost sounded more like the staffing to actually maybe work through the requests, I guess, the workload, I guess, of actually getting the people into the houses is kind of what it sounded like to me. So I guess that would be more where I would question whether they would need at least maybe one other person to be able to get the people to work through the cases, the caseload, however you want to say it, to get into the houses, as opposed to the property management. So yeah, the property management, that would cover it, obviously, but do they need, it'd cover less.
Like
It would cover less.
case management. is what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
asking
case
about.
management would be like, where I guess would be where I would question if Cunningham, if they have the staff already, or if they would need one more person if they go ahead and take on, say that's 5 or 4 or however many, all 6 brick and mortar buildings that they're asking to be funded.
And yeah, it would be guaranteed be 6. They would stay full. Diane?
I'm going to put a wrinkle in this. I'm not a big fan right now. And a big part of it is, I remember specifically, she said it would be for Urbana. Urbana first, and Urbana would probably fill it. And this is the county. And we'd like to do a first come, first served basis. I understand somebody has to run it. I get it. I definitely do not want to have monies for rent and utilities. And I know that they have helped other districts and other townships. But I think, once again, you've got a tax base that kind of takes care of some of that. It never will match, I get it, but that's where we're all sitting in that boat in all of our districts here. So the other thing in my mind is there are several agencies that are wanting to put up buildings right now. And I don't have a problem having a building, but it needs to be open to everybody if we're using county funds. I mean, somebody from Champaign, somebody from Savoy, somebody from my area, somebody from, out in Sedoris or Bonneville or something like that. It happens in the smaller, Mahomet, whatever. But it just bothered me that it would be Urbana. So that's just my 2 cents.
What I will say is that the people this would be serving don't have a home. So I know one of the processes is they receive referrals through Crisis Nursery. Those people aren't required to have formerly been from Urbana. That could be people from, anywhere around the area. So I do think when it comes to specifically the shelter services, no, you're right. You're dead on with the utility or rent assistance. That would be within Urbana. But yeah, specifically with the emergency shelter, sort of transitional housing, like that's not, one of the requirements isn't to have any sort of residency there.
Well, and I know United Way also has some buildings they've been working on, and they place people too, which is really good, another agency. So this is for six families, right? Not just individuals. These are for families, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
probably
these would be for
almost exclusively.
6 families. So we need to weigh that in here too. The concept is important. It's how do we fund it?
I would support this. The fact of keeping the family together is very important. I didn't know if, how can I say this? I do know that like the women's shelter, it's only mother and kids, right? So if it, right?
Courage Connection?
Courage Connection, I'm sorry.
Courage Connection is not restricted to women. I will say Danville has 1 or 2, and I think as well as Decatur, and most of those do restrict to women. But the one we have in town, actually, it takes both men and women. But I think
okay.
I think it's pretty much almost exclusively women and children.
Okay.
But they do accept men if men are, fleeing domestic violence.
Oh, okay. But that I think is great to have the whole family structure together during this process. I've seen also great work that she's done in this community, her and her staff at the Urbana, or Cunningham Township. I mean, am I saying this right? Yeah, Cunningham, okay. Yeah, so I've seen Ms. Chinino, how you say her name? Chenoweth, and her staff do great work, so I would definitely support this. And keeping the family together is very important. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. So, they already have apartment complexes, right? And they're wanting to build some more? 5.
Really significantly, their proposals to buy, not to build.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you ain't building an apartment complex for $626,000.
Jenny?
A quick, they do already own buildings, like Samantha said, yeah. So this is something that I'm hopeful that they've got experience and will be able to do that on a budget. But, and I know we can come back to it too. We can always.
I think for me, I do think that they have a good track record. I think if I could put all of the money into bricks and mortar, I'd put all of the money into bricks and mortar. I do take Diane's point. I do think, since we are dealing with a homeless population, really, I mean, it is through Cunningham Township, and probably they're going to get more referrals from Urbana, but the people that they're dealing with they don't have any address. They're just, you know what I'm saying? And I think the more of that kind of infrastructure we could get into our community, the better. To me, I hear Aaron's point though too. I do think in terms of, because they already have some of these, you know, it's just adding more to it. I think, and I also know that Ms. Chenoweth has a very good track record of fundraising. So in terms of keeping the lights on and the utilities, I'm confident she'd be able to do that. I do think that it is for 6 families, but it won't always be the same 6 families, right? It's 6 spots. Over the lifespan of the building, it might end up serving dozens of families, because the idea is you get them into this, they're safe, and then you find them a permanent option through some of Lily's programs over at housing. The thing that I think we have right now is that problem with that transitional housing, which is why we gave that money to Lily for the domestic, right? Wasn't it for like victims of domestic abuse, right? That we gave, it was about the same amount of money, if I recall correctly. So I would support it. I don't support I'll just be honest, the other programmatic pieces. I do think that's way too Urbana specific. I also think we've given pretty significant money for things like utilities and rent already. And we did that during when like COVID was at its worst. And so I feel like, I mean, I'd love to sustain that forever, but I don't feel like that's the purpose of this pot of money either, to be blunt. I think people that are unhoused face risk of really bad violence against them, or from engaging in crime in order to keep their lives together. Do you know what I mean? So for that means I feel like it kind of fits into that category. But I also think we could just make this yellow and come back to it at the end and like see where we are with everything else, and that might give us a sense of where we are. That dollar figure at the bottom is like the balance. So in case you're like, what's that dollar figure? So we still have 1.8 million left to spend. I mean, this is kind of fun, right?
I love spreadsheets.
All right, next we have the East Central Illinois Building and Construction Trades. I believe this was a pre-apprenticeship program. Is anybody, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'll speak to this. I support the concept. I think it's, I think that if we funded it, maybe we'd fund it like, say we're giving you the funding now and it's going to be a couple of years. I have 2 concerns. One, I think they're proposing this for 12 people. It's a lot of money for, but it is also to get the program off the ground. I mean, I think that if there's a program like this could really, really help get people into good paying jobs. I do think maybe the building trades could put a little bit more skin in the game and cover some of the costs. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially some of the staffing costs. So I think I'd support it, but maybe more to the tune of like 200,000. I feel like the 250, and like say that we're giving it to them and that they have like till like the end of 2024 to spend it, because I do think on some of these new programs, but like maybe give them money to start kicking this thing off. But I think that we in our community, pipelines to the building trades, like we don't have them right now. We have the East Central Illinois thing, but that is specifically funded by the State Highway Department and gets people into specific, I mean, some people get placed in other jobs, but it focuses a lot on operating engineers and laborers. Like, so we don't have like a pre-apprenticeship welding program in this county. That's mind-blowing to me. And one of the problems is, and this is across the board, a lot of the high schools have pulled that kind of programming out. And what that means is it's really hard for some of these folks to get into the trades because a lot of it is experience and understanding how to do the interview. So I feel like more so we need to like think about this as like seed money to get a project going. I think that there's probably some stuff that they could do with the United Way specifically because they have a labor liaison over there that like could maybe help sustain it. And I think that this would be an opportunity to build with the youth build program. Because what happens right now is the youth build people, they do the youth build program and then they kind of just fall off a cliff. They're not, I mean, it's a great program. They're not getting jobs. And like if we could get the youth build program into this program, then they could get actual jobs. And so I think I'd support it, but just maybe not at this full amount.
I agree. You know, the trades are in our family and our heart, and this is something kids can make a good living at with great benefits. And I think one of the things that he also talked about was people that are coming back to get a skill in the trades, not just young adults. So this maybe could couple in with some of these other things that we're doing to get people out there and helping them find a job. But I agree, the 200,000 is very reasonable for that.
Yeah, I would support that at that amount too. If it hadn't have been for the shop classes, the trade classes, I'd have never graduated high school. I wasn't interested in going to college. I worked with these.
Yeah.
And when they took all of that away, because I taught shop classes when I subbed here, when they took that all out of there, they lost so many kids because you keep pushing on them. Look, this is the reason you pay attention in English. You have to communicate. It's the reason you pay attention in math. You better be able to add and subtract if you're going to do these kind of jobs because it's required. And a lot of the kids would get in there and realize how much more they needed and that they needed to focus on not just that, but their other schoolwork too. So, yeah, I would like to support this one.
And it's like a backdoor way to get kids interested in math. Do you know what I'm saying?
Something.
I agree with your proposal. I had a hard time wrapping my head around the 12 people served
Yeah.
for 249,000
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But when you put it that way with like startup costs, and then, you know, even looking for the things looking at rather the things they accounted for here, like the possibility of childcare and prescription glasses and, you know, they were accounting for a lot of like what ifs, which are kind of awesome what ifs. I'm glad that they thought of them, but I think that they'd be able to make it work with 200.
I would definitely support this as well. Like Ed Sexton was saying that, you know, not all kids are interested in going into college. And then to piggyback off of Diane Michaels, you can make a great living employing yourself, and for that to be an option from a trade that they would learn, I think that's awesome. So I would definitely support it.
Yeah, I'd support this too, at the $200,000 level. Yeah, Samantha, you mentioned going out, you know, living, you know, working for yourself, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Now, granted, yes, if you get into a union job, I mean, can be great if you stay in there. They can be great, there's no doubt. But if you have the trade, I mean, sometimes, yes, you have to learn the trade, and the union would be a great way to do it, but sometimes sometimes some people are made to maybe just work for themselves. And once you have that trade, you can go out on your own and you can set your own schedule. You can charge what you want. Now, granted, you're going to have to charge something that people are willing to pay. But I sit here and, you know, I'm a self-employed electrician, and I'm not doing as much because I'm getting more into the farming, but the demand is out there. I mean, I could be doing electrical probably 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, if I really truly put my name out there and accepted, you know, all the jobs that I could. And that's not with, I mean, I've been in it long enough, people know me, but if you get your name out there, you do good work, the jobs come. So yeah, I have no issue with supporting this, and the 200,000 sounds fine to me. You know, I think we need to put something to it, and the 200,000 sounds fine.
All right, moving on to the next item. We have First Followers 3H program. Is anybody, Diane?
Yeah, nothing like having an opinion, huh? But I mean, I did my homework, I looked at it. I struggle with this. I struggle a lot with this because we've already given them money in the first go-around. We've given them money out of the county budget. We've done a lot of things for this group. I'm not saying that there might be a portion of this that we may want to fund, but I really don't see funding the full amount with the needs and only 1.6 left, and we still have some pretty hefty things that really deserve our attention.
Ed?
I don't know, I have a problem with it because when we were asking for specifics about the program, he talked a lot, but he didn't talk about specifics. And the individuals that they're working with and a lot of other stuff, it was just kind of general. And so I have some doubts about this program.
I don't know that I would say doubts, but I'm a little concerned about it being the startup nature of the program. I guess I wanted to see more from the first round of funding. More, I don't know. It's hard to say what to expect as far as progress when it's something that's a startup and just getting off the ground. I do think that First Followers does some amazing work. I would love to see what they can do with funding, but I think it's one I need to come back to and see what we can fund and what will make a difference, along with what has already been received. So.
Yeah, I think I fully support the 3H idea. I think this is a big problem we have with sort of agencies in this area, is that getting them all to work together. And I think it's a huge lift to try to get all of these agencies to work together. And I really commend First Followers for taking up that lift. I think that the program, though, and this is true of a lot of starting programs, I just am hesitant to think that they're going to be able to spend another $1 million. And specifically on the bricks and mortar piece, which is 400,000 of this, I'm not comfortable supporting a bricks and mortar piece unless I have a specific, like, the difference is that there's like specific ideas for specific buildings for the one we talked about previously. This one is more general. And I'm not saying, I mean, again, I think that that's the kind of thing that, again, we have this public safety sales tax money down the road. If they came and said, I have this specific building and we could house all these programs in one building, I mean, this is something that Jim McGuire, before, we had been talking about this for years, that we need that kind of building. And I mean, we were talking about some significant funding from the county back when there was that one-stop shop that the Urbana Police Department was working on, and Carl Foundation, and then the guy from Urbana left, and Carl just disappeared off the face of the earth. And the county was part of those conversations, and we had really good conversations across, me and Stan and Kyle and Jim had really good conversations about this county investing real money in that. So I think that's that piece of it, that $400,000, I don't know that I would fund it through ARPA just because I don't think it's developed enough. In terms of I do think, based on the pace of how the program's going, I don't know that I think the $500,000 we gave is going to be enough, but I do agree that I don't know that I think I'd probably be in like the 250 range, something like that. And because also the contract we have with them is basically right now, like kind of through the end of 2024. And to get them like through 2025 and 26, I think a little bit more money would get them through 2025 and 26. So that's, I think, the kind of range that I'd be in is like in the 250 range. But I also agree with, I think it was Jenny who said, let's just kind of like go through the whole list and come back to this one and see where we are. But I definitely feel like I fully support the 3H idea, because like they're the only group that really, Dream has some partners and they're good, but like 3H is the only thing that came together and said, I'm bringing all these folks to the table. And we just haven't had that in our community. And if we're gonna invest in like the service provider side of it, to me, that umbrella group is where I'd put more, like what money we have left, that's where I'd put it. But I think I'd go through the rest of the list and just see where we are.
If I can add to that too, I hear what you're saying and I can appreciate that. I think that's very reasonable. I'd like it to be a yellow line item
Okay.
too. But the other thing is, this is a group that has grown pretty quick.
Yeah.
And you really need to hone what you have. Sometimes when you go too quick, you either miss things or something gets lost in the shuffle. And I really want them to work on the things that they're already finding success with, if I could say that. And not to say that, another $250,000 won't help with that, but I think that was one of my others. And yes, we gave them the 500. We actually gave it to them before we could spend the money, if you remember. And it went through the mental health board there.
Right.
So, so funding something is good, but sometimes you just too fast, too quick. And I can say this, in Rantoul, the old Civic Center is called the Community Foundation of Northern Champaign County, or the Community Service Center of Northern Champaign County that Andy Kolchecki ran. Multiple agencies.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, that was an old Civic Center.
Yes, that's what we need.
And it's not costing this kind of money.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Right.
As long as you can get everybody to sit down and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to have somebody there once or twice a week. Because that's how people in the northern end of the county find all these different services for everything.
Right.
Or at least a resource. And maybe that's what we need to look at is, let's get a resource versus
Right.
something. I mean, I don't want to tell somebody how to do their business, but we
Right.
certainly can tell them how to spend the money. So that's my suggestion.
For all you Urbana residents here tonight, there is a old Civic Center in the city of Urbana. That would be a cool place too. So if you could tell somebody at the city about that.
I definitely what stood out about the H3 Coalition is the fact that he was able to bring so many organizations together. Is there any way we can get an update? I know that they were looking for the for the housing. They wanted to have a housing piece, and then they were also gonna build from the ground up, but I think that part isn't anymore. They're just looking for a building that can house all of the organizations in one, right? Or is that where we're at? Is there any success with that? Is there any, do we know, like, what would the additional funds be used for? Are we looking at a particular property? Are they moving forward, or is there, okay if we get an update?
Yeah, Marlon, if you wanted to.
Can you come up to the mic? I'm sorry, I'm a little deaf, so it's.
All right, so we do have a couple properties in mind. So we're looking at the old Dallison Company that's on the corner of University and First Street that has been vacant. So we've communicated, we've been trying to get in contact with the owner of the property. We've had very little success with that on our own. So what we've done is we pulled in the City of Champaign planners. And so they're stepping us through that process, serving as a liaison. Then there's another property that we're looking at that's on, I think it's 1301 North McKinley. It's in the Garden Hills neighborhood. It used to be way back in the day, the Illini bleachers, over 40 years ago. So we've been doing our homework, and we've also hired a architect to help us. And so what we put on the table is not only the new construction, I mean, we had a new construction idea as well, where we've been doing research as far as national research about what are other locations doing, or other counties and other areas across the country that are doing. And, that's the new build, but also just kind of renovating or remodeling and different things like that. Those are the two properties that we've looked at. It's been a slow pace for us because of the fact that, we're working with the City of Champaign. They have a workload already. I've had several email and phone conversations with them. They've been trying to catch up with the owners so we can do site visits. We haven't had any luck with that as of yet, but I do meet with the city planners next week. So we do have some things in mind, and just like with a lot of these capital projects, it just takes time.
Dan?
Would you also consider maybe Urbana area? I mean, there's a lot of buildings, and I know sometimes the landlords aren't around, and that's part of the problem too. You can't get a hold of a landlord, but I'm wanting to consider that if you, kind of stretched your boundary out, maybe you could find something that would be really good for you.
Yeah, we're not, bound by Champaign-Urbana city limits, anything like that. We just try to find out, what's available to the extent that it's going to bring in the target population that we're looking for, right? There has been some discussion about, just some general ideation about the Urbana Civic Center as well. Last time I checked on that, it's been a few months ago, as far as the city of Urbana has some ideas what they wanted to do with it. So I don't know exactly where that is, but no, we're not bound whether it's in city of Champaign or the city of Urbana.
So I think Samantha, did you have a dollar figure or anything you wanted to throw out? Sorry, I don't want to, or Kyle, I just have both of you as blank right now. I have a lot of question marks, and do you want a question mark? Okay. All right, so we're clearly coming back to that one. Oh, wait. Man. All right. Kyle, question mark?
Sure.
Okay. Next up, this is Macy, or Mace.
They do look
I
like
call him
Macy's.
Macy
No,
every
I
time.
think they say Macy.
Yeah, Macy.
They call it Macy, but it's Mace.
I feel like I just went.
All right, does anybody else want to go first? Jenny?
I had, and I'm not sure now, oh no, you know what I had, okay. For this one, I had put down, 125 to cover the 1-year funding, which includes a 15-passenger van, a site coordinator, counselors, I think it would be easy for them to spend the 125 within the bounds of the timeline that we're presented with. I think the middle school population is one that really gets overlooked when it comes to after-school programming, having just had an 8th grader finish middle school myself. I know Champaign has the public library that does some programming, but that's really just covering one middle school in Champaign. I like the idea of other areas of the county picking up and covering that, and I think 125 to cover that first year and get them going would benefit.
Stephanie?
I think I'd support 2 years. I think the one difference between this and some of the other multi-year programs for me is that the iRead I Count specifically has a 3-year assessment that they want to do. And also, I mean, not that I don't have confidence in Muhammad or, you know, some of the other ones that are coming up real soon down the list, but like, I am super uncomfortable with that 25, 26 school year as being part of it. Like, I begrudgingly agreed to the I read, I count third year. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I don't, like, that third year is not a world that I'm super duper comfortable with. What I'd like to do is fund 2 years, but then make that last year, the contract can go through 2026. So if they don't spend it all, that means they have one more year to get it spent, and then we don't have to give any money back to the feds. As finance chair, giving money back to the, like, if I have to give $1 back, I'm gonna feel like we lost, right? So I think I would maybe fund it at 2 years, so like 240. I also think we haven't done middle school, we haven't done anything in Mahomet. I think there are working class folks in Mahomet. I also think, though, I'm just going to be blunt, Mahomet has some pretty deep pockets in Mahomet. And I feel like they could be able to, if we fund this for 2 years, my hope would be that the folks in Mahomet could pick it up and fund it after that, right? If they were able, this is a new program. It's hard to get new program money, man, it just is. But if they could show, hey, this is successful, I feel like Mahomet as a community then could come in and pick it up after that, right? And that would be my hope. But we haven't done any specific youth programs in Mahomet yet. And it is a part of our community, and it's a growing part of our community. And, you know, part of me is a little bit hesitant because if you said, where's the violence coming from? It's not coming from Mahomet, right? And so, like, that's why, right? You know what I mean? Like, thinking about that is something I want to think about. But I think funding the first 2 years is something I would support.
Yeah, I agree with Stephanie. Actually, I've been to this place several times when they had requested grant money from the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois and other grants. So they do try very hard. People are unaware that there is a population in Mahomet that is not affluent. Right. And so I think one of the big things is this is where they go. At one point, they put a little skateboard park out the back and things like that, which was kind of neat. But this would be a prevention, and I would definitely agree with 2 years on this. I think that's very important for this group of kiddos.
For your spreadsheet purposes, you want to move yourself over.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I kind of like the idea of 2 years, but making it known that it can go into the third year. I mean, you don't have to have it all spent just by chance. Yeah, that 360 for 3 years, it is kind of for me too. But yeah, if they could have the flexibility that it can go into that third year, I have no problem with that. I'm not sure what they cost, but like they have a 15-passenger van for $25,000. I wonder if that's enough personally, but and I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure what programs, like if they can tie in with the state somehow, you know, and get a kind of I'll say a state discount, just buying it through the state somehow. But maybe that is enough. But I kind of question if that's enough for that van. I mean, So I don't have a problem funding it for 2 years, which I guess would be basically, it evens out to 120,000 per year. So yeah, at 240, that sounds decent to me.
Ed?
I like that idea of the 2 years and going possibly into the third if they still have money left over. That seems that would be doable for the program.
Sounds good to me. All right, if nobody else has comments on this one, we'll move on to the sleep.
We never heard from Samantha, I don't think, on this one.
No.
Debating if I was gonna say something. You know, just traditionally, like YMCA's, like places like this have never been inviting to people like me, coming from a low-income family. Sometimes their fees were too much for my family to afford. I come from a family of 6. And so that's what I was kind of like standoffish about it. But I know just growing up, I've always heard that you want to see some millionaires, go to Muhammad. That's where the richest folks live. So that's why I just kind of like, well, do they need this? And there isn't too much crime. You don't hear too much going on in Muhammad. But just looking from my own family structure, programs like this really do help single parents. If the tuition is affordable, but she did mention that the income, the parents' income, is on a sliding scale, so that's enlightening. I would support it for 2 years. I would.
I am going to ask, Jenny, did we convince you for 2 years? Or, because if not, I'm going to leave it yellow.
No, you can, I mean, I'm outvoted, it's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It's all about debate. I mean, I still would lean towards a single year of funding, but
Okay.
it seems pretty otherwise unanimous, so I'm perfectly fine with.
You're okay if I put it
Oh,
in
yeah.
that column?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to. I'll leave you at the 1 year though, like
I
in
think
your actual column, but
When there's a lot of debate, I think, we
Yes.
can talk more, but this is definitely, I think everybody else has settled on a figure, and I'm okay with that.
And I will echo Samantha though, like, and this is the same thing. Remember when we gave the money to the Urbana Parks District and we grilled them for like half an hour about like, I'm only this MOU. And again, I don't know if this is with the school district itself or if it's a not-for-profit. So, but like the MOU is going to have to clearly spell out that low-income kids get into this program without having to pay, or I don't support it. Do you know what I mean? Like that has to be part of it. And that's my understanding of what this money allows them to do.
And actually hadn't been there and know a little bit of the, well, of course, the guy next to me knows more, but honestly, that's exactly what this is for. And there is a trailer park out there. People use that, and you're right, the single parents and things of that nature. So this is a non-for-profit. This is not part of a government entity, but this is a non-for-profit that has been established for at least 15 years, maybe more. So it's very well established, and it is used, but, like everybody else, things cost a little bit of money. So just that in the back of our brain.
All right. Can we put in the MOU that they have to refer themselves as MACE? Because it's just, it's MACE. Next one is the SLEEP program, which is through the RPC. The SLEEP program, City of Champaign did something similar in the Garden Hills neighborhood. If I recall correctly, this program would be available to residents in Dobbins Downs. And did we say Dobbins Downs and Scottswood?
In Rentoul. Yeah. There was 3 neighborhoods. The $1 million got us to 3 neighborhoods. I fully support this. I don't think we need $1 million because that would be if every single house participated. I had reached out to Champaign to find out I just never got an answer back, but we don't need, not every house is going to participate. That's just not going to happen. So I think I'd probably be like in the $500,000 range and then it's also like to some degree, maybe that'll like incentivize people, sign up now, money, you know what I mean? Like, and all of these utility support programs we've done, we never said we're going to give it to everybody, like in the winterization program we don't have enough money to winterize every house in the county. We spend the money until it's gone. But I think $500,000 would get us pretty far, and it would be a 50% participation rate, which I gotta feel like is pretty high.
Oh, Jenny, you were before me.
I had put the same number as Stephanie was all I was going to say, and with the caveat that I worry that we wouldn't even reach it. So would we end up giving money back if we don't reach it?
What we could do, I mean, this would be an agreement with RPC. We could put a sentence in there that said, if you do these 3 neighborhoods and you can't spend it, I'll come back to us. And then we could talk to the sheriff office and have him do a heat map of where there's other neighborhoods and then expand it to another neighborhood, maybe somewhere else in Rantoul, or maybe there's somewhere in St. Joe, or maybe there's somewhere in Savoy that we haven't thought about, or do you know what I'm saying? But I think that I'm less worried about that, I think, as long as we word the MOU correctly, except this will have to be an IGA because it's RPC. Man, that was a lot of initials. LMNOP.
Diane?
Yeah, I agree. I think the 500,000, and I remember the proposal that I received from the village of Rantoul. He actually gave a percentage that he thought might do that, and it certainly wasn't 100%. But there are other neighborhoods, I know, that they would add to that, or maybe Ludlow or some of the other smaller communities. So anyway, I support the 500,000.
I guess I don't know if we would do an IGA with RPC, because RPC is kind of the county.
We're the conduit for their grants.
And we like approve their budget and stuff. I mean, it all gets wacky with them in the mental health board. It gets really theoretical. Samantha?
I definitely would support this. One thing that I seen happening with the sleep program in Garden Hills, that everybody wanted it outside of Garden Hills. So it was like we had a huge demand coming from people that stayed outside of Garden Hills. But I definitely think that it is needed in Dobbins Down and, the other hot areas, Rantoul and Scottswood, because they do have, or they're experiencing violence and crime in their community as well. But I would definitely support that it be opened up to just anybody. I think this would be very beneficial for homeowners everywhere. And even some apartment complexes. One thing that we were kind of taken back by was that Garden Village, because of the apartment complex, that they weren't able to get those video doorbells, and that was their request. That's what they wanted because of the crime that they experienced over there. And I think it should be opened up even to apartments. If we could talk to some apartment property owners, and I think it would be great. I mean, we're experiencing violence everywhere, not just at homes. But I would definitely support this.
At what amount for the chart?
That's what I'm thinking. So did we get any numbers from the city of Champaign?
We didn't.
Okay.
The only number we got is that Rantoul thought 25% would participate, but the money that 1,005,000 is enough to do every house and the administration for Scottswood, Rantoul, and Dobbins Downs. So already Rantoul, I mean, I think maybe they're a little under ambitious, but I never did get an answer back. So I did send an email. I also did want to just really quickly acknowledge the work that Chris put into this. He's the one that got us all the maps and worked with GIS.
Yes,
and
thank you,
that's the only
Chris.
reason we even know how many households we're talking about. So if I need a map, I call Chris because he's like our map whisperer. So thank you, Chris.
So just,
500,000, I'll
oh,
agree.
sorry, to put a bug in your ear on this one, is this something where if it was successful through RPC that public safety tax funds could go towards doing more of in the future? Okay, just throwing that out there.
Aaron?
The 500,000 sounds fine with me. Yeah, the MOU, however you want to say, it'll have to be worded correctly. And obviously, yeah, I mean, if they aren't looking like they're going to spend it all, somehow there needs to be obviously in there somewhere. I know you know, but just has been mentioned a timeline of, okay, you know, the deadline is X to get it spent. So 18 months or say before that, the deadline, it all has to be spent. They better be getting back saying, hey, we aren't going to spend it. And we're going to figure out within the next maybe 2 months at the most or something where we're going to try and spend the rest of it or something along that. But it could get worked out. I'm sure it can get worked out. And RPC, I mean, they'll do their best to spend it. I mean, if we have the money and where it needs to be, where it needs to go. So
Yeah, I will say, I have never seen a household assistance program that RPCs ran where they didn't spend all the money.
Yeah.
Including, we gave them that flexible money for utility, like, we've already given them a little bit of ARPA money for people's household bills. That program's done. We gave them the
Yeah.
money, and it's spent. And that's like, when I met with Kathy yesterday, the RPC line is grayed out. And the other thing we're doing with them is buying the Head Start program, and they're apparently closing on it in June. And she's confident that money's going to be spent by 2023. So that's the track record that I'm like, that money, like,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about RPC
Yeah, no,
spending
they'll-
money. I don't know. I think Delitzo just he gets a check and he's out there, he's spending.
I mean, if it's limited to just the areas specifically that we've talked about thus far, they'll do their best to spend it there if enough people want it. But I have no problem that if it gets expanded to wherever, that they'll spend it. I mean,
I'd like to say, it looks like Mr. Storr, I know he's not on this committee, but he might have a comment.
sure, but yeah.
Hey, thank you, Samantha. How much per household would this all amount to? It's 2,000?
I think it's like 18, it's like because they don't have to get the doorbell and the lights. I think if they get both, it's 2,000. And if they only get one or the other, yeah, so it's like up to 200, yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny, no. Ed?
Ed?
I would definitely support that. Anything we can do to cut down on the crime or document at least for these individuals to be apprehended would be great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share this real quick. So we had a break-in with a neighbor a couple of days ago, and literally the people that I signed up for the sleep program, we were able to track them from each neighbor as they walked past because they were on foot, some young kids. And I'm like, okay, I signed her up for the sleep program. I signed him up. And we literally had footage from each neighbor to give to the Champaign Police Department. So definitely, I mean, even just with just a break-in, you know, like even the catching shooters and violence and everything going on in the community, I think that it's definitely beneficial for all neighbors to have a video doorbell, because when you're not there watching, someone else is. And then to be able to get alerted, like literally when they walk past your house, when it's a human alert, it's gonna alert your phone. So you are in real time, whatever's going on at your home, you're being alerted, whether you're at work or away from your home at that time. So I just hope that people will really sign up for the program and get the lights and the video doorbell. Get the whole package. Don't separate it. Just get it all.
I'd like to point out that last week I read a mystery book, and one of the main plot points was they were able to track the suspect through doorbell cams.
I'm good with 500. All right, nobody else has any comments on the sleep program. Next, we have the stand down program.
I'd like to see.
Yep. Aaron?
This one, I guess, I think we almost, it was kind of at least alluded to, though, since I got it, our first meeting when they presented to us, almost wishing that maybe they'd ask for more. But it's $10,000, and it's going towards, I mean, they're specifically, you know, vets, but I asked, and I have no problem if it's for all homeless. I mean, but if it specifically helps the vets, I guess the vets, the homeless vets more than just the homeless general public, I have no problem with that. If it's a larger percentage, you know, let's say 75% of the people it helps are vets and the other 25 are regular homeless, I have no problem with that. I have no problem if it's reversed the other way, but it's such a small ask. It's a one-time deal, but it does sound like something that, you know, but again, through the money that we're supposed to now put into the veterans assistance and stuff, maybe they can start doing something like this. Obviously, it's somewhat new. I mean, at least it hasn't been recurring on a regular basis in this county, but you know, it's kind of a new thing, but not entirely. You know, maybe through other funding, you know, we can look at doing more of these later on. But I have no problem. $10,000. I mean, it is specifically a one-time ask, so.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, they did ask us specifically for a one-time ask. I do recall Samantha saying she thought we should fund it for 2 years. And I'd be down, I mean, they're planning to do it in October. So if they do it October this year and October 2024, like, I'd be okay with that. Like, I mean, and then after that, hopefully they'd be ready to move it on to the Veterans Affairs Committee. But I think, Samantha, it was you who said, you should be asking for 2 years. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm going to put 20,000.
I concur.
Yeah,
I agree. This
yeah,
is something
yeah.
that needs to be done, and that's not a
If-
lot.
If they're open to do that, I mean, obviously, and I think they would. I would hope they would be. I mean, and I think they will be. So yeah, that's totally fine. 20,000. I mean,
Looks like Jenny and Samantha. I think it's everybody. Yeah, Jeff, I'm gonna steal her microphone.
I spent a lot of time with Cheryl Walker on this one. And so from a personal standpoint, I understand why it's essential for this. Because there hasn't been a stand-down group, help, providing whatever needs, whether it's for the veteran themselves or the veterans and their families. So it's really a combo. We have about 10,000 veterans in Champaign County. Not all will be there, but funding this for 2 years would be a real blessing for them. And then I would think over the next couple of years, then the VAC funds would cover it. I don't think there'll be any VAC funds enough this year to cover it, but the next year or year after, then it can move over into the VAC program.
The awesome thing too, they're a husband and wife team too. So I like that connection, and just, I guess, you know, even if she went over the 10,000, I'm thinking maybe she could say, hey, husband, can we get some, can we get some extra, help from the support that you got from the county? So I like that there's the VA Stop the Violence and the Stand Down, the wife and the husband working on that in collaboration. That's awesome.
All right, moving on to the next item is the, yeah, I'm good. Next item is the VA Stop the Violence program for veterans. Looks like the ask is for about 1.5 million. Good.
If nobody else is going to say anything on this one, I didn't put anything down for this. I need to be convinced because I feel like with the Veterans Assistance Funds that are coming, that we're very soon going to have a lot of money that we need to spend on veteran services. And I think a partnership with a group like this would be an excellent way to make sure those funds are getting to vets. I think starting it with that was where my head had landed in the last meeting. So I'm open to suggestions. Don't put anything down for me yet because I'm curious to see where other people were on this.
I agree with you somewhat here, Jenny. Quite honestly, it's not in our budget what we have to give them this year. So this is kind of a little benefit to be able to do this and get things started. I certainly wouldn't fund all 3 years. I'm maybe a third of it, maybe a little less than that. We need to find out, once again, the particulars. But I don't think that we will have the kind of money that we need to fund the programs the way they're supposed to be this year. And I know that they're not going to ask us for, Jeff and I both sit on that committee, and there was a meeting last week, I think. And I know that they're not looking to grab the full amount or anywhere near the full amount that they could from the county. So they're very, very conservative in only taking what they can handle and what they feel they can dish out during a certain length of time. So I think that's a blessing also, and this would be a kind of a parcel part of things to get things going before it went into the committee, the VAC committee.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like, if we're this kind of commitment and to get a program like this off the ground, I feel like, to me, the proper place, I fully support the idea. I think it should be with the VAC committee, and that we should turn these folks over to the VAC committee and have them, because I'm just going to be honest, I don't know that I ever think that VAC committee is going to be able to give away all this money on their own. And so and out of everything on this list, there isn't another, I don't want to say revenue stream, because there isn't a revenue stream. We got to figure out the revenue stream part of the stream, but there is a funding stream that the county is going to have to start funding. And so to me, this one, it's not that I don't support it, it's that I think that we should have this be in the VAC, and then that also answers the questions of how is it sustainable.
The money that is going to be allowed, did you say is it 1 million per year for the vets? The VAC is going to be 1 million that'll be available after 2024?
Now, it's 1 million. If they wanted 1 million from us in 2023, by law, we'd have to give it to them. They're not asking for it right now because they need the ability to ramp it up. But that was for 2023, and it's tied to our EAV, which is a super interesting way to, that's a very volatile number. So it can go up, like literally it was $900,000 the first time I learned about this. And then by the time our EAV actually like settled down and we knew what it was for 2023, it had gone up 110% in like, I don't know, 2 months. So like it's a we got to thank the state for this one, but it's a very, I would say 1 million, like, let me just be blunt. We're going to have to, in some way, shape, or form, levy on this. That's the only way to fund it. It's the only, as finance chairs, either we levy on it or our fund balance will be gone in a couple of years, right? So that's something that's outside of this that we're going to have to address. But I think that it's going to take a minute to get this program off the ground. So I don't think there's any reason that they couldn't start working with the VAC now to figure out how they're going to implement this program. And so when they do come and ask us for the money, that there is, Tammy's gonna not like that I say this. I also just think like the state said the county has to fund this, right? We have a very, very healthy fund balance right now. If they want $200,000 starting costs, I honestly, instead of this community violence money that's a one-time thing to address community violence, I would take it out of fund balance first. I mean, that to me, I know Tammy's not gonna like that I said that out loud, but that to me is like, I mean, the state gave us this charge without telling us how to fund it. We do have some flexibility right now, but to me, that this is, again, it's not that I don't support it. I think we as a county have to figure out the revenue stream for this because we've been charged with the state to figure out the revenue stream for this. And I honestly feel like for them to get this off the ground is going to take a little bit of time, right? So yeah.
Well, thank my partner here. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to play right here. He actually has the printout of everything that it's funding. And, you know, it's hard for us to remember every program and every little thing that comes with it. One of the major parts of this, of course, is personnel and then consultants. Now, so if we would provide counseling services for the vets with PTSD and also family support, then maybe that's what we say. Do you have a part of your program that would do this? And we do it for $250,000, $300,000. Actually, both the husband and the wife were at the meeting, so they are very much in tune with working with our commission here that we have that we fund. So that's a blessing that all the guys and girls work together with that, so that's really good. But that, once again, is one of the things that, you know, it's a first year that we need to throw something at it, I believe. And maybe this MOU specifies more of counseling service for these people and their families. And that's a targeted group, just like the youth or some other areas. And maybe we do that because we're going to run out of money here and we've got to cut something. And I don't want to cut any of it, but sometimes we have to look at what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road and how that's going to affect everything. I mean, if we gave them 300,000, you know, any figure I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Diane Michaels. One of my concerns is like, because it's coming from the ARPA funds, and then they will be eligible to get money through the county. We really didn't have a lot of nonprofit organizations, which is something that I've been doing in the background, speaking with some of our local nonprofit organizations, seeing what their needs are. I won't name them, but I have spoke with Kyle, and I was going to tell Stephanie too that I wanted them to present their proposals to you guys because they're needing stuff like taking the youth to college tours. So they rent Greyhounds when they do those trips. One nonprofit organization needed 2 more vans. I don't know if you guys are aware, but with COVID hitting, a lot of nonprofit organizations that were doing pickups are not doing them anymore, you know, with the fuel increase in costs and stuff. And so I was hoping that, you know, if this did free up some money, that would free up some money, hopefully, for some of the nonprofit organizations to be able to present a proposal and maybe get some of the help that they need with their organization. So I would agree, 250,000, 300,000 is good. I would definitely agree. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this one was kind of a bit of a, you know, what do you do with this? Because, yeah, we are going to have the state's funded, you know, mandate, I guess you could say. I don't know what, you know, exactly what they need to get going, but if we do give them something, you know, the 300,000 sounds fine or less, but, you know, maybe no more than 300,000 from my standpoint. I mean, If they can get rolling with that, I can't imagine they can't get something rolling with that. And then, yeah, work with like Stephanie was definitely saying, I think we all tend to agree, work with the VAC and we'll, start fleshing it out. They can start fleshing it out and bringing it to us as to what they need later on.
I think the discussion has put me solidly in the I don't want to fund this out of community violence funds camp, just because, we keep talking about the VAC and I'm like, we're going to be funding that for as long as the state says we need to fund that. This is a one-time thing. And to give it to this group when we know we're going to have funds for them in the future, when there's these other groups up here that we still haven't funded, that we don't know if we're going to have or where we would find funds for them in the future. I feel like this money needs to go to these organizations that we don't have opportunities like this again for.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I think where I'm at is that I could see maybe giving them like $100,000 specifically to hire a consultant or to have somebody doing the work to figure out what they're going to do with the VAC. Do you see what I'm saying? Like right now, the VAC is like, the folks from our admin and like they're trying to work it out. But to me, it's like under the assumption that we're going to fully fund it, which we are going to have to fully fund it, right? Is that like the idea that we're just getting from zero to and able to give away that $1 million is absurd to me. I think that this group could play a really important role in that. I almost would want to give them money and I mean, yes, I want to start doing the veterans services now. I don't know that I think sometimes it takes a minute, right? I mean, I think the same thing with First Followers, like, right, they've been working with a consultant. How do you go from zero to this 3H program? How do we go from zero to fully funding the VAC? So I think and I also do think like we have to figure out as a county sooner rather than later how to get this actually funded. So to me, I think I would be in the I could see giving them like $100,000 specifically with the charge of, how do you take this proposal and this VAC that is just now kind of getting off the ground and with the charge of what are we as a county doing? Do you know what I mean? And using that money as a you know what I'm saying? Almost with what we're doing with the broadband task force money, right? The first thing we funded was the plan. I feel like it is a heavy lift to just give people money and just be go. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think if we wanted to say we wanted to put $100,000 to the plan and that initial, that this is the kickoff seed money, that's where I think I could see giving money. But that's where I could see giving money.
Yeah, once again, I hear what you're saying, Stephanie, and I agree to a point that, but we've got to remember that this is not the VAC. What we need to do is have them be an umbrella underneath our VAC. So we've got to remember these are two separate entities. And I agree that, maybe giving them some money to do research to find out who, what, and where, but I still also think they need some money to get the program going. I mean, I would lower that down to $200,000 if that's doable for this year, and that's it. It's a one-time deal. And that's all, because they are going to all have to collaborate. And there's other agencies. You've got all your American Legions and your VFWs and your AMVETS and all of those that are also going to be working. And those are the people that are on this board, quite frankly. So that's a blessing that everybody's trying to work together. And same with the I call him Mr. Robbie, Mr. Walker. And his spouse helping with that too. They are also from two different agencies. But what we need to do is get everybody collaborating under the one umbrella that the county has control over, because then we'll know that things are being sent out there and being of good service to our community. That's just a thought. And I can go with whatever the good of the group says.
All right, do you want to leave that one yellow for now and then come back? We only have one more and then come back.
Yeah, well, we have one more, and then we also have two that we have not made decisions on.
No, that's what I mean, one more, and then we would just maybe, like, I teach collective bargaining, and so one of the things when you teach collective bargaining is you have to have you need to get to where you have what's called the closed field, right? So so if we could get to where we just have these three, then we just have to make the decision amongst those three that is we're putting goal lines out. So I think if we could get to that point, then it closes the field a little bit more. Whereas we started with a really open field. So yeah, I'll start with the why. I mean, I think my position on the why would be my position. I think it's a fantastic program, but my position. I don't support it for 3 years just because I don't support anything for 25, 26. I just don't support it. I don't think it's a good idea. Like I said, I begrudgingly did I read, I count, but if I funded this, it would be at 100. So that just not for all 3 years. So I'm going to put 100 on mine.
I agree. This gives them a physical computer or laptop to use or a pad to use, and this actually has one-on-one training for these people. I definitely agree with that, Stephanie.
I like that idea. I would support that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, the 2 years works for me.
I'm doing calculator math. I'm like, because I'm like, what do I want to support it at so that I can still support the other ones that are up there? So.
What, and your calculator math got you at?
I'm like flip-flopping between 75 and 100.
Okay.
If the consensus is 100, I would go with it. If anybody else feels like giving them half of it would be a reasonable option, I would be willing to discuss more on that.
Okay. Samantha?
Yeah, I would support this at 2 years.
Okay. Oh. Man, I just made Samantha rich. Oh, okay. Kyle?
Well, if everybody else is gonna do it.
I'm perfectly willing to argue for 75. So,
What stood out to me was the fact that they're giving people skills to use the internet. And one thing that we found out during COVID, everybody is not equipped to use the internet. And as the lady stated that helped her to get a better job. So those skills are very much needed in today's workforce, and I think it would be a benefit to our community. The more people that are a part of this program, I think it would be a great, brighter future for them. So 2 years, I would definitely.
One of my other thing that I would say is we haven't funded anything that was specifically for women, and not that I do think that they would let in other people, but that it's a YWCA. And one of the charges of the ARPA relief money was to address underserved populations. In particular, they mentioned women in terms of economic solvency. So that's when you read the charge. So to me, that's one of the reasons I would support it at 100,000. And just to be frank, quite a few of the programs that we're giving money to maybe more geared towards men. And again, if you're looking at issues of community violence, there's reasons for that, right? But I do think this is an opportunity to fund maybe a program that is more specific towards women. Jenny?
I said if everybody else is in consensus, you can put me in. Oh, well, I mean, I was only at 75 because it was half, and like,
Okay.
it is technology, which does not last forever. So
Right.
it's not like a brick and mortar thing where, there'd be
Right.
the lasting. I mean, the skills are lasting; those are a lasting impact. But, I think it's a great program. I think it has potential to increase employment. But yeah, you can leave me.
Okay. I am.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw one more tiny wrench into the program, and y'all could just tell me to get out. But I had not thought about this. This was not something that I was thinking about at all. However, the last year, our committee funded a program called A Vision to Succeed, which was a specific program that works with young Black youth, I want to say out of Rantoul, if I recall correctly, to do like a day camp program. And we gave them $15,000. They have spent it all. They did it. I think it was Aaron that was the one who was really championshiping. Aaron and Samantha were the ones that championed them. They haven't asked us for more money, but we funded them. They were successful. It's $15,000. I kind of would like to give them another $15,000 out of our first round of community violence money. They are the only group that has spent all the money that we gave them in the first round. Everybody else is in various stages of spending the money. So to me, I like to reward that, and it's a small amount of money. And from what I've heard from the people that participated in the program, it went incredibly well. It's a very low bar.
And I've told them to reapply.
So I mean, to me, I think that I would just like to add another column and give them another 15,000.
If they're doing it again, yeah, sure.
They are.
I mean, and yeah, that's great that they're doing it again. So
Yeah. This guy was taking the money out of his pocket to do this. And it was very, very, it's probably the best bang for our buck, if you will, that we've received. And you're right, they went to task and did the project and came back and had reports on it. So, yeah.
Well,
Please.
he's doing weekly activities with the youth, and I mean I've heard so many people praising him on the internet because with COVID, I think a lot of kids were in the mind frame of just being home all the time, just not really getting out socializing, and that's what one of the parents had mentioned is that she's never seen her son so active since COVID. He's getting out every weekend. That he has different plans. They're going fishing, they're going camping, bowling. He's really done a great job, and I talked to him in my inbox on Facebook, and I told him you should reapply because there might be some funds that might be turned back in, so that would be awesome because I'm pretty sure that he could use some more funds. Thank you.
I don't think your spreadsheet picked up the sum
Oh, you're right.
in the balance column.
No, you're right.
there.
I got to
Okay.
fix the formula. Completely correct. Oh, don't worry.
I was just enjoying watching you reformat and add the lines, and it's just very soothing. It's like the ASMR for me is watching spreadsheet creation. And yeah, I'll sleep well tonight.
All right. Because I'm this kind of person, it is. No, I don't know that it is necessarily. 1 second. Right? Yep, that's it.
Yeah, let's do a 10-minute recess, come back at 8:30.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I gotta turn to those to green, you're right. Don't worry, I'm gonna double check the math and I'll, but. Oh, yeah, it's awesome being finance chair, let me tell you. It's everything my heart desired.
All right, calling this meeting back in session. So we still have 3 categories to go back to figure out. Which is the Cunningham Township, the 3H program, and we did not make a decision on the Stop the Violence program. Oh, yeah, Aaron, you want to comment? Well,
Just, well, on the VA Stop the Violence, I don't have a problem supporting them up to 300,000, but I don't have to support them at that either. The 100,000, or I see your point, Jenny, about maybe not supporting them at all. So, I mean, I don't know where to draw the line. This is just one of those. I guess on that one, I'm kind of go along with the majority to a degree, but yet not everyone can do that either, so.
To be clear, I do support them. And I don't want to not support them at all, but I think that we have this major source of funding coming that we'll be able to direct some of to them, so.
Stephanie?
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think about all 3. 335,000 is specifically, in case you're wondering, how do we get to this $2,400,963? 335,000 specifically is what we had left from housing, the housing line, and we threw that into community violence because we felt like, why have like a whole separate meeting? And we had already done several housing projects here, right? So I would support giving Cunningham Township $335,000 because if you want to know, in my opinion, who is outside of the housing authority, the best people who do housing in this county, it's Cunningham Township. I think give it to them, say, we want a proposal from you. We like bricks and mortar the best. I know it's not the full amount that you asked for. What can you do with $335,000? I am confident Danielle wouldn't turn it down. I think that we have a commitment to the 3H program, and I'm not cool with not giving them anything. So I think $250,000, and with the conversation that, like, we want to continue to see how this develops. And again, we have this, I really think we as to some degree, the programs that are up here, I want to see how they do. And then I want to have a real conversation about the money that we use from our public safety sales tax money, and look at how these all perform, look at what their final reports are, and at the end of 2024 into going into 2025, think about that money, because just, I'll be blunt, I'm not really thrilled with the way we spend that money right now. We're giving $150,000 away, and what we're getting back for it is to be blunt. And specifically, if 3H came back to us with a building, a facility, that's a conversation I'd want to have as a county. And then I am deeply, deeply hesitant about this last one. But I think if folks would agree to those other 2, I could be convinced on $200,000 for the Stop the Violence. I still think that I could easily be persuaded that all of that should come from the VAC money. But if it would build consensus, I think I could get myself up to $200,000 to get that off the ground.
There's not 200,000 left at
Yeah,
that
there
point.
is. I did the math, my math totals. Oh, no, you're right. It would be $22,050 over, right? And I'm proposing, we're earning interest on this money, and we have some money that's left in the, I don't know what it's for pot. I'm proposing that $22,050 extra dollars, that we just take it from that county side of money. And I do think just to be blunt, after meeting with Kathy, that maybe some of the things we funded, we're going to get some money back from some of those things. I'm not 100% sure, but regardless, we have enough ARPA money to cover $22,050. Let me double check that that's the right amount. But I will give you the specific amount that I'm proposing we go over a little bit. Oops, it's 1 second. If you take this amount, and you subtract, oh man, this amount, this is why you should never do.
22,197 according to my phone calculator.
Yes,
There
you're
we go.
right, 22,197. So my third part of my proposal is that I'm voting, we go above 22,197, and most of that would be the $15,000 for the group. But I also feel like you reward good performance, and they did a good job, and they spent all their money. So that's my proposal.
I can agree with that. I think that's very fair. And I wouldn't even care if we kept it at a 0 and whatever the difference was the VA gets, whether it's 180 or 178 or whatever it is. But I agree with that. I think that's very fair. I think that gives everybody a chance to get going and get started on things and to come back later. I think we've been very prudent with the funds, and we've been very good to try to touch a lot of different areas with this. So I agree with your proposal, Stephanie.
I was going to suggest something very similar to what Diane just did. I am giving up on, purchasing the full building for Cunningham at that rate, but like you said, confident that Danielle can work with what she is given. I had written down something along those lines for H3 as well, and I want to keep supporting the organization. I want to see it succeed. Like I want all the money to be spent, and I want you to be able to spend it in a way that's going to benefit the entire community. And I'm excited to see what you can do. And I wish we had another $1 million to work with. And yeah, I'm also comfortable with allocating whatever is left over to a consultant to work with the VAC and the VA Stop the Violence group to see how they can partner. Because like you said, they've got a lot of groups under their umbrella. There's so much violence in the veteran community, whether it is self-inflicted or because that is also gun violence, and to be able to make a dent in that is important work. So thank you for laying that out. I thought it would take a lot longer. But I'm also okay with the go over by 22,197 plan. So I'll land wherever you land all.
You could just copy and paste the formula once you make it for one of them. No, if you like copy and paste K13 and then you can paste it on. No, you gotta do them one by one. Oh, no, actually, I didn't know you could do it like that. Oh. Now you got to turn to dollar values so they make more sense.
I was trying to figure out, actually, I was trying to figure out a really specific dollar amount. What this 200,000 would be if we just did the 400,000. But don't worry, I got it. Y'all keep talking.
All right, anybody else? Aaron?
I guess I have absolutely no problem with your proposal, Stephanie. This throws something out there that maybe I don't need to, but just, Jen, the idea of the giving up on Cunningham was approximately 6 units at the full $530,000 ask. Again, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but if you add roughly 15,000 more to their line, here that Stephanie has at 33.5, it's actually a little bit over, but if you add roughly 15,000, if you divide their full ask by 6, but you instead make it 4 and multiply it, it's roughly 350,000. I mean, I don't want to keep taking ARPA money from other places necessarily, but I mean, that's just to throw that out there. Or just another way, the 335 gets roughly, not quite, but roughly 4 of the 6 units. I mean, just to bring it out, but ultimately, I have no problem with what you presented, Stephanie, there at the end.
All right, do we want to take a final vote then on recommendation to the board?
I move that we use this chart as a recommendation to bring to the county board for spending the $2,407,963 in community violence task force.
Stephanie, do you want to fill in the proposal line?
Okay, well, one point of clarification. So if we now have $2 figures that we want to know what we want to put in. If we put in, we could either put $200,000 here, or we could put $177,803. Okay.
But what if we put it close to like 152 and go up to the 350 for Cunningham?
To give roughly a full 4 units of housing for Cunningham, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the plan was a certain building that was already 6 units, or if they were purchasing by unit, or how that.
It's a building that's got
Yeah.
6 units.
I just want to make sure that so right now, I have the weird dollar amount, 177,803 here, and the 350 here, so you can see we are 15 above. If y'all just tell me what you want in these 2 slots, and I will put it there.
Which would make it 162,803?
Can I ask, is it just like a weird to give somebody 162,803 when they didn't ask for that amount of money? Is that just an odd dollar amount to make a contract for? Okay. They're gonna be like, this is really random.
Somewhere, where did we end up? I mean, somewhere we wound up. Did it start at the beginning, what we received, or where did it start? Well, but I'm just asking, where did instead of like to the 10s or the 100s, where did it come in from the very get-go? It had to start somewhere, whether it was from what we truly received or what we've spent. I mean, I'm just making that observation. It had to start.
It could be from the interest, though,
Well,
that we were, if they paid
I
out
mean,
interest.
okay, well, that's where it would have started then from, as to why we have such a weird little number to.
Stephanie, why is the balance 7,900? Is that from intro, or is that just part of what? I know, but where did we get the odd number?
That's what I'm just throwing that. It has to come from somewhere.
I'm gonna be real honest, I don't know. Like, just what I have is. Yeah, like what I have is that what we have as a balance is $2,072,963 in community violence and the 335 and the other. Why that is, I do not, know, to be honest. Like why it's such a weird dollar amount, I can't honestly tell you. I'm like looking at the chart. I do not know. Yes. And that's only 2,197 more. I'm fine with that. To me, it seems like if I got that dollar amount, I'd be like, that's really odd. I'd be like out there trying to buy like pencils or something for that 90 cents. I mean, obviously, what I would like to also propose is that we vote on this and to recommend to the council, but that then before I put it on the full board, that I give it to Kathy Larson, just to make sure that the landscape of what we're talking about is correct. I mean, if it's not for some reason, then that's a whole nother conversation we have to have. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but.
You want to fill in the other gray areas?
You mean here? I mean, do you all want me to put the same, okay, let's start with housing. Everybody's okay if I put 350 under your name? Oh, come on now. I should not have to do it one by one, but whatever. I don't know why my column is so big. Sorry. I feel like it's weird. Are y'all okay with 250,000 for first followers? Yes. Let's try this. Okay. Are you all okay with 165? We don't actually have anybody for that. Oh, yep, I was being stingy to them. Oh, yep. And everybody's, Ed isn't the same, why not? Ed, what did I short you on? Where?
Missing a 0 on line 3 for him.
Oh, yeah, man. Okay. Okay. And here, I will actually put people's actual names, so they're not like, what are these weird initials? What? They'll be like, what is this? Saying 2 N's? 1. Okay. Jen, do you want Jenny?
Yeah, I'm Jenny.
That's what I thought.
There's also a Jen and a Jennifer, so I don't want to cause any confusion.
That's why my name was so, mine is Samantha. We get the biggest columns because we have the biggest names. I know, Ed, I'm sorry. You only get the first number. Oh, yeah, that's right. Do you want to be, I thought so. I mean, okay. All right, so can I turn everything green? Or maybe just get rid of the color altogether? Whose doesn't?
What am I missing? A 0? Somewhere?
It's the fourth column, or the fourth row.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're still at, yep, good call.
But oh, there we go. Okay.
Wow, Danielle just got rich. All right, I mean, I'm only have the colors so that like, yeah. So I'm just gonna get rid of all the colors now because it's all green. I will email it to everybody, yes. I know, mine is like all scribbled on.
Can I just say real quick, thank you all for all the discussion tonight. This has been a really positive experience, I think, getting to spend all this money with you. And I hope that someday the federal government gives us more money that we can just spread all over the county. I'm like tearing up a little. Thank you all. Yeah, this is great.
I mean, listen, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think this has been a fantastic committee to work with. Obviously, we'd like to fund more things and more people and everything like that, but I think what we're doing is, I mean, we're doing, the scope of what we're doing is, I'll just be perfectly blunt. I was not entirely sure I was going to run again. This is why I ran. I want to see this through, and I want to see it through right. So, and, you know, props to Ed, who just came from not being on this committee to jumping right into the middle of it without missing a beat.
No, I appreciate your perspective. Like, you've worked in law enforcement, I guess, through JDC, and you brought a lot to it, so thank you.
For me too, on some of these, if it hadn't have been for those kind of programs in the schools, I'd have never survived in school. I mean, the only other thing that stood between me and not wanting to go to school at all was 6 foot tall with 20-inch arms telling me I was gonna graduate. Because I wasn't all that interested in school. But I think if we don't spend it and try to do something positive with the kids and this next generation, the next thing we're gonna have to do is build more jails, and I don't want those. They're a necessary evil. They are, because there are people that belong in them. There are bad people. But I would rather catch these kids when they're young and make sure that they follow the right path.
Can I ask a logistical question? If any of the specific to Community Violence Prevention Fund or community violence prevention money comes back, do we want to spend that specifically on other programs? Like, would we maybe consider allocating it to groups that are already doing the work and spending the money, or will we be accepting more proposals, or is this like, it seems like it, at this point, like we did with, I forget the name of the group already, that does the outdoors environmental work. Yeah, that if we could reallocate to groups that we maybe didn't fund fully, that have plans, that have work going, like, that'd be an easier way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously we'll have to wait and see, you know, what plays out with money and how much time we have left to spend it. But yeah, and you know, time's gonna be a big factor, so it might even be a decision that we make as a full board. Yeah.
Stephanie, when you said you wanted a vote, did you want a true vote from this committee, or is it just the fact that we're all, I think, in agreement? I mean,
I mean,
I was just asking. I'm fine with we're all in agreement, but
yeah.
And then my only question, I think your question, Jenny, kind of leads into, I guess, I'm not trying to run the meeting, but into the next about a future meeting date, kind of. I mean, it's to, I don't know, you're running the meeting, but I'll let you run the meeting. I mean, but if
I mean, I think the recommendation's clear. You know, and it's just a recommendation. It's not anything that's it's not something that's going to be on the consent agenda. It's not going to be the final action. And as far as future meeting dates, I think right now it would be TBD. But yeah, like, you know, and Jenny brought up a good point. If there is money that is returned, I think that conversation might start in the full board, because, you know, there's going to be different factors to it. You know, it might be time, and if it's time's a factor, then just give it all to RPC because they will spend it. But, you know, it might be something like that where there's something quick that we could do that would qualify that's not necessarily within this realm, or, you know, maybe it would be. You know, I'm really curious to see how the sleep program's gonna go as far as what, you know, capacity they reach. So yeah, I would think there's a lot of possibilities. Yeah.
I think too that coupling on what Jenny said was that there could be projects that we didn't fund fully, and maybe get a hold of them first and say, would you resubmit and could you get this done? Because then we don't have to go through the process of somebody new. This is stuff that we've already done. And I agree, we don't need to have another meeting unless the full board decides that they don't like our proposal, which that's our job, to go back to our friends in caucuses.
We are a bipartisan group here, and we should be able to convince the rest
Oh,
of our
yes.
caucuses that we've made a good choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. But thank you, everybody. It's really good that everybody could get together and get this done in a timely fashion.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty happy about the work we've done here today. There's a lot of tough choices, but there seem to come some good compromises. And if nobody else has any comments, I will call this meeting adjourned.